Thumbnails are an essential part of every YouTube video, and today I'm going to show you exactly how I make my thumbnails. Enjoy! To make my thumbnails, I use Paint.net. It's a free program and it has a lot of cool features, but you could also try to follow along in other programs as well. So the first step is going to be Sometimes the backgrounds to thumbnails can be tricky. If I'm playing some sort of video game, usually the background is just going to be some screenshot from that video game. And you can see that in some of my videos, like the Fortnite video, the Valorant video, the Bed Wars video. But sometimes the video is about something that doesn't have a good background on a thumbnail. For example, this video right here. So what I do instead, I have this screenshot of my room right here. So I'll just use that as the background. It isn't the best option, but it's definitely better than having the 2016 bright colored backgrounds with the sun rays. But to make sure that the background isn't too distracting, if we go up here into effects and then down to blurs and then to Gaussian blur, I like to add just a small blur, not all the way to the max because then you can't tell what's going on, but just enough to make it out of focus so it's not distracting. As you can see, I have it at 30. Sometimes I'll increase or decrease the brightness, but the point of the background is kind of to not be noticed, basically, or that they don't take the attention away from the rest of the thumbnail. And the next step to the thumbnail is adding. So I have just a couple images, not too many, of myself. I really don't like looking at these, but the reason why I have so many is to have an image that fits the video best. So if there's a lot of funny things happening in my video, I might put a laughing face. But if the video isn't really meant to be funny, I'll do a surprised face. So that's what I'm gonna do here. Something that's really useful at this stage, if you go up here to layers and then import from file, you can select an image and it just gets added as its own layer. After I have the image that I want to use for the thumbnail, I'll go to this website, which is just a background remover and it works really well. To find it, just search Adobe background remover. So I found this image, which is surprised. Wow. So then you can move your image around. One thing to keep in mind is that say that you put your image here in the corner and it's cut off a little bit. And then you go to another layer, deselect it or something. Then when you come back, if you try to move it, it'll still be cut off. And you can just undo it to before you move the image. But for the most part, just make sure it's in the right spot before you deselect it. So I'm just going to scale the image up a little bit and then move it to the side. Normally I have it to the point where the top of my head is cut off a little bit and you can still see my shoulder over here. Technically we could be done with this section, but I'd like to add a couple things to just make it look better. First up, if you hit Control Shift and D, you can duplicate the layer. And then if we go to adjustments and then hue and saturation, I bring the lightness all the way down to 0. And then I have 2 layers of just my silhouette. And then I make a third layer that is completely white. So then first we want to be on the white layer. We want to go to effects, distort, and then morphology. And it kind of makes a little outline around myself. I usually put it at around 25. Now this does get a little bit weird around my hair. It's more opaque. I don't really like it, but there's not much I can do about it unless I go in and manually remove the hairs, which actually is not a bad idea. I genuinely had not thought of that until this video. But for the most part around solid objects, it should be pretty clean. Next, we want to go to either one of the black layers. And we want to go to effects, blurs, and Gaussian blur again. And next what you want to do is bring the radius up to 300. And this adds a little shadow that adds depth to the image. And then we want to go to the second black layer, click on Gaussian blur again. But then what I like to do is bump the radius up until you can start to see the areas that are closest to me get darker, which usually is around 200, which you can see the before and after. It makes the shadows pop a lot more. And next we go back up to the main photo of me, the one with color, and we go back to hue and saturation. And then we bring up the saturation just a little bit. I usually have it between 108 and 115, but it really just depends on how saturated the image already is. Then we want to go back to adjustments and to brightness and contrast. And then we want to bring the brightness up a little bit, but it kind of makes me look pale. So then what I'll do is I'll bring the contrast up too. I usually have these both between 15 and 20, and you can see that it kind of just makes the image more brighter, easier to see. Staring at this photo of me for so long, I'm starting to hate this image. I look so stupid. So before doing all of that, we had this image right here. Adding all the effects isn't necessary, but it makes it look a lot nicer. And then you can merge the layers down so that way you just have one layer for, the subject. And next we need to add this similar to the background, the thing that you want to add in this general area right here depends on what your video is about. For example, on the video where I got my rank in Valorant, I added the like logo of the rank that I got. But on my video drawing logos from memory, I added one of the logos that I drew. Sometimes though, you just want to add text. Whenever I make my thumbnails, I try to put things in it that actually happened in the video because clickbaiting is bad. Now, adding text is pretty complicated. So what you need to do is you click on text and then you click on the image and then you type on your keyboard. For this part, you kind of want to have your title in mind because you don't want to restate your title in the thumbnail. The title for this video is probably how I make my thumbnails. So I don't want to add that here. For the font, I usually use either Arial or Arial Black. They're pretty easy to understand and they don't have like fancy things going on. Usually for the size of the text, I make it big enough so that way it's like slightly overlapping. Then I bring the layer of myself above the other one, so that way it's kind of like behind. Something that you could also do is before you merge these layers down, you could put the text between some of the shadows, so that way it's less dark, but it's pretty much optional. Now, I usually go for white text, but you can see that it's a little bit hard to understand. So what we do is, again, we duplicate the layer, go back to hue and saturation, and bring the lightness all the way down. And then we select morphology again, and you see that there's like an outline on the text, which just makes it look nicer. Now, it isn't the best. You can see like, especially on the O, it just looks really weird, but for the most part, it's good. Now, this next part is completely optional, but I like to make. If you click this little like check mark here, you can see that the layers like disappear and reappear. So I'm going to uncheck the text and then make a new layer with more text. So then I have like a different thing of text. So and again, I'll like adjust the size. So now I have two different thumbnails basically, which is nice in case one of them doesn't seem to be working. And then sometimes I'll also make different thumbnails with different images of myself for the same reason. And then there's just a final step, which is. Now to save it, you go to File and then Save As. You don't want to click Save because then it's going to overwrite your background image. Now most likely down here, the file type will be .pdn. And you want to save it as a PDN before you do anything else. Then you want to click Save As again. Then what I do, I give it a little name and then I put 1 at the end. Then you want to click right here on the file type and select PNG. And then click Save. Okay, and then flatten. And what this is going to do is turn all of the layers into one. This is why I like to save my files as PDNs, because on a PDN, all your layers get saved. So in case something happens and I want to go back to it, there's still the PDN that I can use. Now, one last thing that I like to do is I go to Effects and then Photo and then click on Vignette. And now it's going to be very strong at first. So I bring the radius a little bit higher and then bring the strength down. Now the vignette should be like barely noticeable. I don't know if it actually does anything, but I just like adding it to the thumbnails. I think it makes it look better. And then you just want to save the PNG again. After you've already saved the PNG, you want to go back before you flattened the image. And then you want to select a different variation of the thumbnail. And then you need to make sure to click Save As again, because or else it's going to overwrite the first thumbnail. So what I do is I do the same name as the other one, but add a 2 at the end. And then you're going to have to add the vignette again. Something that you might want to do before uploading your thumbnail to the video is you want to like go to the thumbnail, right click it, and then click on properties. And then you want to go down here to the size. Now YouTube doesn't allow thumbnails that are over 2 megabytes, but if it happens to be more than 2 megabytes, what you can do is go up here to image and then go to resize. What I usually do is click on by percentage and then just kind of slowly decrease it. Up here, it does say new size, but right now I haven't changed anything and it says almost 40 megabytes, but on the actual file, it's less than 2. So this doesn't really help you at all. I usually just like wing it until I get it right. So yeah, that is how I make my thumbnails. This video is very different from my usual content, but I didn't know what to upload and decided to do this. I hope you guys enjoyed it.